Hello and welcome to Pastries for Pets Dog Treat Decorating channel. In this video, I will be showing you how to properly flood a dog treat using icing from www.pastriesforpets.com. Today I'm going to demonstrate the Royal Blend icing and how to flood a dog treat. So, Royal Blend icing is a very basic icing. It dries pretty fast. It's a lot like our original where you just add the water to it and you decorate. But I want to go over a couple of things on it because just like any of our icing products, we have directions here, and I'm going to start with flooding. And I want to show you some of the consistency issues that people have and how to solve them, because it can be a little bit confusing, and I'm going to go over that today. And I only grabbed Royal Blend icing, but this is the same with all of our products, so it doesn't matter which icing product you're using, the same basic principles will apply. So with the Royal Blend icing, it says, half a cup of dry mix and then you add 2 tablespoons water. Well, 2 tablespoons plus 1 teaspoon of water. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I have half a cup of Royal Blend icing right here. So I'm just going to add it to a small bowl. And you pour it right in. If you wanted to add, like a dry powdered food color, you certainly could do that right now. I'm not going to for this demonstration. I'll show you that when I show you how to do some writing with it next. But for now, I just put a half a cup of dry mix into a bowl. And just like the package says, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons water plus 1 teaspoon. So I'm going to grab my tablespoon, which is right here. Okay. And I'm going to add 2 of these, 2 tablespoons. 1, 2. And then I'm going to add 1 teaspoon. Here's my teaspoon. So 1 teaspoon water. Okay. From there, I'm just going to put this back over here for you. I was going to grab a small mixing spoon, but I actually forgot to put it on the table. So let me use, let's see, I guess I can use this. Okay. So usually I use like a smaller spoon, but for this demonstration, I'm just going to use any old spoon that I had on the table. And I'm just going to stir the icing. So with the icing, you can tell it's starting to form with the water, okay? So you keep stirring until you no longer have any dry mix, okay? And now we're doing flooding. So you want to make sure there's no lumps in here, okay? You can kind of squish them down, mix them around. It might take a couple of seconds. Just want to make sure everything is mixed together. Sometimes the Royal Blend icing does have a couple little bumps in there, but they break up with the water. So they mix right in very well, okay, as you can see. Now, this is with the actual package instructions. So what you want to do is just kind of pour the icing out. I'm trying to do it so you can see it. And count to 12. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 7 Mississippi, 8 Mississippi, 9 Mississippi, 10 Mississippi, 11 Mississippi, 12 Mississippi. I don't know if you can see it, but the icing should flood right back down into itself and not have any lumps. This one did a fairly good job, but I'm going to decide to make it just a little thinner, okay? So I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon, which is a very small amount, okay? More of water. Now, on the directions in the bag, I do explain to create thinner or thicker icing, add more or less drops of water. So that's why I chose to only add a 1/4 teaspoon more of water. And that's just because I wanted it a little thinner. So there really is no wrong or right way to have your consistency. The directions are there to guide you so that you don't put too much water in at the beginning, because it's easier to add a touch more water than it is to add more mix to make it thicker. So we try to give you an overall estimated amount of water that you could start with, and then you can go from there, okay? So that's a pretty good consistency. You know, I could go and count again, but I know that I'm going to be happy with this consistency because it's going right back into itself in a flat kind of motion, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my bag. I use a cup a lot to hold my icing bags open. I'm gonna move this so you're not like right in your camera way. So this is a flooding consistency. In a minute, I'm going to show you what we call the details consistency, okay? So the flooding consistency is a little bit more, it's not as stiff as our detailed consistency, okay? So I'll show you that in a second. Let me just shake down my bag. I'm gonna squeeze it down a little bit. For this demonstration, I'm actually going to just cut the plastic tip off because I'm flooding. And then, I'm just gonna quickly flood a dog treat for you. So when you're flooding, you don't need as big as a hole as you would as if you were doing details. So that's why I decided not to throw a tip on here. If I were to put a decorating tip on here, I would have chosen a 5 because it has a fairly decent size hole. And if you notice how I'm doing this, I'm flooding it pretty much next to each one. And the reason why I'm doing this is it actually helps it so your icing will remain smoother when it dries. Now with our rock and hard products, they don't dry smooth, but this is our Royal Blend icing, which dries fairly smooth. Our original dries pretty smooth, and so does our grain-free icing. So as you can tell, I'm just kind of moving this around, and voila, I'm done. Now, if you get air bubbles, you can always take I shake it, but you can always take a toothpick and just kind of poke out your air bubbles if you were to get any. If you get a lot of air bubbles, it's because you added a little bit too much water. So that's how we flood the back of a dog treat.